Okay. All right. So thank you, Susan, for being here with us today on Henlet Central. And just for our watchers, I just wanted to say that Susan was one of our very first author interviewees on Henlet Central. And Susan, you reached out to me again just late last year. And I know that you have this next book that is out in the world called The Beautiful Misfits. And yeah, I don't know if you'd like to tell us a little bit about your book and what inspired you behind that.
Sure. Thank you, Carolyn, for having me on this Zoom podcast, or
Yeah,
whatever you would call it.
podcast.
I appreciate. Usually, I don't get invited back many places, and the fact that you did is like thumbs up. So the idea for the Beautiful Misfits came from a couple of things. One, I had an educated, smart, bright millennial son who got caught up in addictions. And, his was mainly alcohol, pot, Xanax, but his friends were heavily into opioids. And they were great kids, but they were athletes and they would have a sports injury or their wisdom teeth would be taken out. And a refill of a Percocet or an Oxy led to opioid addiction. And he lost 4 good friends because if you buy opioids off the street now or just about any kind of drug, it's cut with fentanyl. And fentanyl is 50 to 100 times stronger than morphine, and one hit will kill you. And most of these kids had no idea that the drugs they were buying were laced with that. So their first hit was their last breath. And it touched my heart. And I just thought there were ways to do treatment better. There are ways to test for fentanyl, and so I didn't want the book to be ultra depressing. And I think it's hopeful and even humorous because, Carolyn, I said it at the makeup counters at the mall. Yeah, have you ever, it's crazy. Have you ever gone to a high end like Lancome or Estee Lauder makeup counter
Yeah,
when they're having the free gift or
yeah.
whatever? I was one of those women for 5 years who would do your makeup and lure you into spending hundreds on
Oh, you're behind that.
it. And I did it for 5 years, and I thought this would be a great setting for a novel. So
Oh, yes.
I combined those
Yes.
two experiences to set the tone of the book.
Yeah, and I know
Yeah.
it's been coined as just a beautiful, emotional yet uplifting ride, right? Through a love, it's a love bought beauty and wonder, fierce
Yes, I
love,
think
right?
that's what my publicist and I worked on to call it. But
Yeah,
it's being well received. A lot of the books on addiction are excellent, but they're too depressing. And
right.
the
This has
Beautiful
just got a little bit of
Misfits,
humor too, like to
yeah, and
lighten up the actual
right,
from
and it
behind.
offers solutions. I
Mhm.
created a rehab in there that's sort of utopic and
Oh, well, good for
wonderland.
you. And
Yeah,
that book came out when, Susan?
it came out in March a couple of
In
months
March.
ago.
So not, yep. And yeah, for our
It's not
viewers.
old yet, like me.
And I know when you came on Henlet Central, your debut novel, Chimes from a Cracked Southern Belle, was
Right.
one of the books that was your debut. And then I knew before that you were dabbling into nonfiction, right? And then
Humorous
you were a
nonfiction.
columnist. That's going to be my
Yeah.
next question. So, all
Okay.
right. So I know you've had some previous work as a
Mhm.
columnist for Gannett newspapers.
Right.
So how do you think that informed your writing, if at all?
Well, it certainly gave me discipline that now that I'm out of the business, I find
Mhm.
myself lacking once again.
Mm,
So this is really going to date me, but from the mid 80s until 2013, I was employed by Gannett, which, they own USA Today and several hundred papers. And mostly I wrote feature stories and humorous columns,
Mm,
but you would have deadlines and you would have rewrites, and you would have editors who would say this works, this doesn't.
mhm,
So it really was, it's like being a sous chef before you graduate to chef.
mhm,
Am I
mhm,
using that terminology correctly?
mhm, mhm.
Because I'm a kitchen culinary virgin. I'm a terrible cook. So, but I think it definitely, it whet my appetite to do longer
Yeah.
pieces.
And
Hmm.
with all the discipline you learned behind writing for newspaper, right?
Yeah. And I wrote for
Deadlines
magazines.
and for magazines as well.
Yeah. Hmm.
Oh, that's great. So and I think you probably already told us, but when did you realize you wanted to be an author, fictional, in the
Well,
fiction world?
I knew I wanted to be a writer when I was 13, and the 18-year-old boy that didn't give me the time of day just broke my heart. He was a lifeguard at the pool, and I was, it was unrequited love. So I would go up in my bedroom and take out a big red journal and write horrific, maudlin, angst-filled poetry, about how he
Oh.
just wasn't seeing the light. And some of the poems were awful, but a few of them were pretty decent. And so in high school, I continued writing short stories,
Mhm.
and I wrote a play that they put on in my high school. And then for fiction, wanting to write books evolved after I read
Mhm.
writers like Ann Tyler, The
Mhm.
Accidental Tourist, Margaret
Mm.
Atwood. I read The
Oh,
Handmaid's Tale when I was
yeah,
20, but the
yeah.
big one was A Confederacy of Dunces, and people
No,
either love that book or hate it. Are you familiar with it?
I'm not familiar with that. With it,
It
and
is
it had
it's
humor, I would imagine.
comedic genius. It's an older book, and the writer John Kennedy Toole, he won the Pulitzer for it after he died. He couldn't get it
Mm-hmm.
published, Carolyn, so he
Mm-hmm.
committed suicide, and his mother got it published.
Oh, and what year would have that have been?
The
Did you say
60s,
in the 60s?
1960s, yeah.
Wow. So do you find that might have inspired your writing with a little touch of humor on some
Oh,
of these serious
definitely.
subjects? Yeah.
I've read it 20 times or more.
Oh, wow. Okay, I'm
Yes.
gonna have to read that. I'm gonna have
You'll
to
either
read that.
love it or you'll hate it.
Or somewhere in between.
I
So,
don't know.
your writing was sparked by a lifeguard not paying attention to you. That's and you can thank him, and I hope he's listening.
I
um,
don't know where he
we-
is.
yeah. Have you ever had the curiosity of hunting him down?
Oh, of course, I've stalked him
I'm
on
sure he
Facebook.
might be stalking you.
Um, I don't know. He was I actually did have one date with him after college, and it wasn't anything. It was like, gosh, I spent 5 years pining over
Yeah.
this.
Well, he got you writing. That's the good thing, right?
Yes.
So, Susan, about your writing style, I know I haven't read Beautiful Misfits, but I'm just because I'm knee deep writing in my next book.
Right.
But I read the Chimes from a Cracked Southern Belle. Love your style. I love it.
Thank
Love it. Love
you.
it. So maybe just tell us a little bit behind your writing style. You write in first person, don't you?
No, I'm right.
Is it
The
first
miss
person?
the Beautiful Misfits is third person. But typically you're correct.
Yeah.
I wrote chimes in first person,
Yeah.
and
My favorite.
I think my style is based on kookiness because I come from a long line of Southern
I heard.
storytellers. They're emotional, they're dramatic, they're hilarious. My
Yeah.
family's hilarious. And when they tell a story, they don't give you the bare bones like my husband, "Oh, it was fun. It was fine." I mean, they go into detail. You probably have family members like that.
Mm-hmm.
And my dad's a writer, and
Oh,
I just think that my style would be I don't know. I've always considered myself a kook magnet, and I try to find the quirkiness and the humor.
yeah. And
Yep.
that's lighthearted. And I honestly, with all the serious stuff going on in this world, I
Mhm.
think readers need to read a little bit more light stuff and mixed. We can mix.
Yeah.
I've got this love for dramedy. When it comes to movies and series
Exactly.
and books, I love it. And just to have that perfect balance of comedy and drama, and
Mhm.
that's real life, isn't it?
It is. And I know your guests say this, but I loved your novel. That was your
Oh,
debut,
thank you.
correct?
Thank you. Yes, it was my
Yes.
debut. So
I
thank
can't
you.
wait for the next one.
Yay! I can't wait to get it done.
I
I'm waiting
know.
too.
Oh.
Okay, so here's a serious question. Do you
Ooh.
feel do you feel the commercial fiction writers today are facing particular challenges, whether it be tied to politics, world issues, technology, or environment? There's a lot going on.
You mean,
But commercial fiction are authors. What are some of the particular challenges they might be facing? I've
and you're talking about
got
novelists
one top of my head.
of
Yeah.
all ages.
Yeah. Just technology. We're being
Well,
faced with a few
I'm low
challenges.
tech.
Hmm. Hmm.
I don't know about you, Carolyn, but I'm low tech. I think that I'm really happy to see so much more diversity now,
Hmm.
whether it's
Hmm.
your ethnicity or your sexual orientation, um, the neurodivergent. I think that's the term. But there's one, in my opinion, and I might just be like making excuses for myself, but in my opinion, there's one area of discrimination that I don't see being tackled, and that's the hens. You know, um,
Mm.
older writers. I you just
Oh, yeah, I disagree. You know why?
you
Because it's the
do.
readers that are, the chick lit, if we're talking about our genre,
Hmm.
lighthearted, the chick lit lovers, that are so tired of reading and gone past those issues, that
Yes.
want something older. And I
No,
think we're the readers.
I
We're the
agree with.
readers. We're the
Yes.
readers. We're the ones who have time and the money to be sitting down
True.
and wanting. I think we're thirsty for these books, not silly books, but books that
Mhm.
have, these older protagonists. I think it's just maybe publishers jumping on the bandwagon. But hey, you know what?
Yes.
With all the tools out there for
Mhm.
authors now to create their own books and put them out into the market. I know it's just word of mouth, but I think there's millions of us readers ready for
Well,
those
you're
books with
right.
older protagonists.
I
Hmm.
wasn't talking about the readers, I was talking about trying to get an agent, and they see you
Mm.
as an older writer, and they might think, well, does he or she have any other books left? They like to get,
Mm-hmm.
I've read that many agents like to get younger writers so they can have a
They've
long,
got the whole lifetime
yes.
of books coming in, right? Hmm.
Right, but
Yeah,
I'm like you. I prefer to read chick lit or hen lit or fun books that have
right.
older
Yeah.
protagonists. Yep.
Yes, exactly. So, you know what? I think it's just a matter of time. I think the publishing world is changing, and I think
Mm,
there's so much more opportunity out there for
right.
us hens, and I think it's just proving them wrong, right?
I hope so. I like that attitude, Carolyn.
Right.
Love it.
That's
Yes.
my attitude today.
Yep.
So in your latest book, Beautiful Misfits, who would you cast?
Hmm.
If it became a movie or a series, who would you cast
Okay. The main
to play
character,
Philly?
Josie. Yeah. Josie's the makeup artist. I mean, she's the main character that has the son with issues, and she's almost 50 in the novel. And
Mm,
I'm a good decade older than she is, but I thought about the usuals: Julia Roberts,
mhm.
Jessica Chastain,
Can't go
Jennifer
wrong with them.
Garner. Yeah, I would think Nicole Kidman, but she's too thin and perfect. So
Yes,
my
yes.
my
Can't have perfect.
protagonist is not thin and she's not perfect.
Hmm.
Um, for the African American supermodel, and this is a true story. When I worked for Lancome, those 5 years, we had somebody at another cosmetics counter in my little Belk store in Asheville, North Carolina, that was the first supermodel on the cover of Time. She was on a bunch of Vogue covers. She was one of the original supermodels of the
Mm, mm,
80s. And she
mm.
ended up working as a makeup artist. I would cast, I don't know, there's so many beautiful
So
African
many,
American
so
models,
many.
but
Yeah.
yeah, maybe, is it Amon who was married to David
Yes.
Bowie? Yeah,
Yes, yes, yes,
probably
yes, yes.
her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Uh-huh. And for the mother who is an Anglophile,
Jane Fonda.
yes,
Is that?
that's
Yeah.
it. Yep.
Oh, Jane Fonda. Yes.
Or
And
Diane
she's
Keaton. I love them.
when either one of those.
Yeah.
Either one of them. Love.
They're perfect.
So I know that you getting lost in writing, you love to do, and you've got a lot of energy and spark to be writing and continue writing. Please continue writing.
Thank you. You
Um,
too. You do the same.
and what would you say, like, what would be some advice to some aspiring writers today? I mean, you've had your books published. I know that you've had a couple of um, opportunities. Was it through Publish or Weekly? I think you did something. You had some awards, some amazing awards.
Thank
And
you.
yeah, Publisher Weekly. What was it that with You're Not Tonight, Honey? Wait till I'm a size 6.
Yeah, I mean, I got good reviews for that one, but they it's hit or miss. The whole
Yeah.
career, if you look at the books I have published, you think, wow, she's gotten published and had literary agents in New York. But the truth is, it is always highs
Mhm.
and just dramatic
Yeah,
falls.
sure,
It
sure.
is not a level trajectory or even an uphill. It's like an EKG.
Well,
It,
there's a window, right? There's a
yeah.
window. When your book is
Hmm.
out there, it's that,
Yeah.
your peak. You hit a peak where then you've got to normally
You
just
know,
get onto another project if that's
it's
what feeds your
always,
soul or
Carolyn,
creative
it's book
outlet.
by book,
Yeah, yeah,
you
yeah.
know.
Book by book. So, what would you say is in the pipeline for you? So you've got beautiful misfits out there in the world. And what's
Hmm.
next in the pipeline? I know you've got the Rebound for Rent that you're trying to find a home for. And then what
Yes.
about after that? So are you still writing?
I am Rebound for Rent is my first rom-com and I'm
Hmm.
shopping it now,
Yep.
but I can't stop editing it and that's a problem.
Huh? Stop it.
Perpetual,
Yeah,
always editing and
yeah, yeah. And you find something and it's like, how could I
mhm.
miss that? Hmm.
Yes.
Hmm.
Um, I am doing a suspense novel. That will be a
Oh,
first too. And I
oh,
wrote my first sex scene, Carolyn. Oh my gosh, and
oh. How did that go?
I had to drink wine before I did. And why was I thinking about my poor parents as I was
Yeah.
doing it? So then
Yes,
I
yes.
toned it way down
Don't hold
afterwards.
back.
Uh-uh.
Don't hold back. So is that something that when do you think that's going to be finished? Because it's a pretty different turn you're taking. You've got Rebound for Rent, a rom-com that's coming up next, and then you're getting into something more serious, right?
Yeah,
So,
kind of, it's romantic suspense,
oh,
domestic suspense.
yeah.
It was my Nano project. Are you familiar with
Yes,
Nano,
I am.
National
Yep,
Novel?
yep, yep.
So it is in that awful first draft stage.
Mhm, mhm.
And I've got
Well,
to
you're gonna have
get,
something to work with, right?
yes. And that you ask about advice to other writers, and I know you probably feel the same way, that the only way to get through it is when you're submitting a book to
Mhm.
agents, publishers, whatever, you better be working on
And then
something
on the next one, yeah, you
or
can't
you'll
put all
crack.
your energy and all
No,
your emotions into that. You've got to
exactly.
be, you've got to be keeping with your plug-in, that little
That's
outlet,
exactly
and
right.
keeping that creative spark going, right? Hmm.
And it also helps with the rejections because you're thinking, well, I'm working on something really good this
Yeah.
time, and I
Wait till you
dare
see
them
this
to
one.
try to reject this one. It
Oh, that's
softens it.
fantastic. No, and
Yeah.
that's just the right attitude to have, right?
Hmm.
It's getting trickier out there just because there's so many people that want to write a book, but and then just
There are.
Amazon, the giant there,
Yep.
inundated with books right now. People can only read so much, right?
There's a,
But it's
what
about
was it?
it's
Hundreds of thousands every year, maybe a
right.
couple of million.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. But you know what? You've just got to
Yeah.
find your tribe, and
Mhm.
and that's the key, right? Is just putting out a
It
book
is.
every year, 2 years. How long does
Yeah.
it take you to write, would you say?
Well, I was still working when I did the Beautiful Misfits full time, so that took 5 years because
Yeah,
I did a lot of research.
yeah,
But Rebound for Rent only took maybe 9 months.
yeah. Oh, good for you. Yes.
Yeah.
And they say that, once you've learned the writing and what it
Yeah.
takes, your next book is I'm still waiting for that. My first one took 6 years.
Did
Um,
it?
yes, it did. Yes, it did.
Wow.
Yeah, then there's Margaret, and now with the next one coming, and now there's Zelda. I'm moving a little bit faster, but I think I'm
Uh-huh.
still going to be tough on the editing part, and highly critical
Yeah.
of each sentence. So I need to stop
Okay.
that.
Can I sign up to be a beta reader, please?
Absolutely. Oh,
I would
yes,
love
definitely,
to.
Susan.
Yay.
Definitely. So our time is just about up, but I just want
Okay.
to thank you so much for joining us today,
Thank
and we
you.
wish you all the best with the Beautiful Misfits. It's already out, and with Rebound
Thanks.
for Rent in your next book, and I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you so much for having me, Carolyn. I enjoyed
Oh,
it.
you're
You have a
welcome.
great rep. You have a
You
great
have a great
website.
trip.
Yes, yes, I'm going to Greece in the
Okay,
morning. So
great. Oh, great.